Are you looking for a way to help your brick-and-mortar business drive more traffic and increase your sales? Look no further than the Receipt Paper Podcast. In this podcast, Joanne and Kyle provide their sage advice on how to make your brick-and-mortar store the hottest spot in town. Whether you're just launching a new business or trying to grow an existing one, these informative episodes will leave you inspired. In each episode, Joanne and Kyle take on a different topic related to running a successful business. They offer practical tips based on their own experience as owners of multiple brick-and-mortar locations. So whatever challenges you're facing, they have actionable advice for you. From finding a location and executing your build-out, to merchandising and customer experience, to sales and marketing, Joanne and Kyle have you covered. With helpful advice from these experienced entrepreneurs, you are sure to learn how to increase your sales and have your business running out of receipt paper in no time. Let's dive right in.
Real quick, if you're curious about opening a brick and mortar business or you're ready to go all in 2024 to get your business open, then you don't want to miss the Storefront Ready Bootcamp. The Storefront Ready Bootcamp is our 4-day live experience that we only do twice a year that walks you through everything you need to know to get started on opening your dream business. In this value-packed bootcamp, we're going to walk you through things like how to validate your business idea so you can feel confident moving forward. We'll teach you the 4 most important decisions that you need to make so that you can set your business up for long-term success. And we're going to show you some of our favorite AI prompts for creating and solidifying your business plan. We'll also walk you through exactly how to find a location for your business, and we're going to share with you our favorite strategies for getting your business funded quickly. All you have to do to register is visit masterbrickandmortar.com to enroll today. That's masterbrickandmortar.com to sign up. And the best part is it's completely free. So what are you waiting for? Go sign up for the Storefront Ready Bootcamp, and I'll see you in there.
Welcome back to episode number 35 of the Receipt Paper Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Strubing. I am here with people today, but first we're gonna mention JoJo. JoJo, baby, how we doing today?
We're good. I'm excited for today.
Hey, like I said, we do have a special guest today, but today we are going to talk about debunking myths about small business financing, how you can fund your dream business today. That sounds pretty exciting.
That's pretty exciting to me.
Awesome. We do want to mention that we are brought to you today by Master Brick and Mortar, by our masterclass. So go ahead and check that out. JoJo, where can we find that?
Yeah, we have a new masterclass available for you to go check out, all about the 5 things that you need to know about opening a brick and mortar business. You can find that at masterbrickandmortar.com.
So you ready to get into this a little bit, JoJo?
Yeah, let's introduce our special guest here today. His name is Daryl Hornbacher, and Daryl has been on the podcast before. He was on with us, I think, episode number 16, and so many of you out there have already reached out to Midas Financial, but we wanted to bring him back because there's so much to this topic. I think we could have gone on forever the last time, Daryl, so I'm excited about today. But Daryl, thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here.
I love having your expertise. We were actually just talking to Daryl about some financing for ourselves for some projects for 2024. So he is our go-to person that we always send our students, and we're looking forward to working with him personally as well.
Yeah, we do Daryl applies to one of our golden rules here of we only recommend places that we will use. So
yes.
Like everything else that we've done, we do business with Daryl as well. So everything he said, tune in. I'm excited for this. I haven't been on one for him. I've heard him speak, but I'm excited to kind of see what he has to say.
Yes. So today we're going to go through 4 different myths of financing. And these are things that we've heard people say that we've worked with in Brick and Mortar Academy, or some of you others that we've spoken with. And we want to bring the expert on to kind of debunk these myths. So let's kick off with myth number one, which is financing is detrimental or bad for small business. So we've heard this a lot, especially from people out there that are applying for a million grants and looking for investors, and they're just so scared to go look for financing because they have this misconception. So Daryl, talk to us about that.
So don't we all wish we could bootstrap our business out of cash on hand? Sadly, less than 2% of the time in the United States of America, that is the case. So financing, getting a loan is not a four-letter word. I mean, if you're getting a loan or you're taking a credit card to go buy a big screen TV, well, that's on you for the decision you're making if you make enough money to pay for that TV down the road. But if you don't, you're just doing it on a chip in a chair type situation. It's problematic. But understand that in today's economy, and this has been since 2000, actually, or the mid 1990s, when the lending industry kind of broke into various different segments. For example, unsecured lending, which is what we specialize in the industry that I actually created in 2004, wasn't around. It wasn't. And Joanne, you'll get a kick out of this. We just talked about you getting a loan. If you would have came to me to get a loan in 1985, you wouldn't have been allowed to even take it out unless your husband agreed.
Wow, that's not that long ago.
I was only 4. That would have been really tough. You were -6, but also on top of that, it would have been really tough.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
But seriously, the finance game changes daily. I mean, I spend an hour and a half of my day just reading updates that come from various sources that I trust to understand the new nuances of financing or what's changing or what they're predicting for the future. But, if you think getting a loan is bad to start your business and you say, you know what, I'm going to save $1,000 a month for 12 months, and then I'm going to have $12,000, and that's what this franchise cost or whatever, and then I'm going to start my business. Well, if you have any type of credit at all, you can borrow $12,000 today and have the money tomorrow, and you can go and put that $12,000 to work and have that business operating for a whole year, and imagine the money you're losing out on by not doing that. Yeah. So, and I could really go on for a long time about this subject because we deal with it every day. Well, and I'm going to give you my rules for success if I'm starting a company, just, from what I know. If I'm starting a company, I'm absolutely going to use what I call OPM or other people's money. And I'm going to try and do it in a fashion that if my business does fail, that it won't hurt me, i.e. the unsecured markets. And then I'm going to take and figure out what the bills of the business would be for the first 18 months. And I'm also going to determine what my own personal bills are going to be for 18 months. Okay. And that's the number I'm going to attempt to borrow. So, and most people just look at what's it going to cost to run this business. That's not it, because you're not getting a paycheck for a while. Okay. So you have to be able to cover your own bills. So if you have money in the bank to do that, that's great. But if you don't, and you have this pie in the sky, well, I'm going to open the doors and they will come, and they don't come as fast as you anticipated, then it's problematic. So I counsel people on a daily basis, if it's going to cost you $100,000 to keep this business operating with no revenue for a year and a half, so be it. But then what is it going to cost for your rent or house payment, your car payment, your food and utilities? And so that's going to be another 50 grand. So you borrow, you get access or you apply to have access to $150,000.
Mm.
And if you do that and you're not making money, good money after 18 months, and that's not because of a COVID or something like that.
It never happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's my formula. But here's the thing: understand something. Everybody's worried about the man, let's call it. The man, if you do it right. Okay, so like if you, our most popular program, I actually created the first platform in April of 2004 and took it to the internet that summer, first one. So we're pretty proud of that. If you went out and stacked a bunch of business credit cards with our company, and you got 150,000 bucks, and in a year and a half, you just, number one, it's interest free for the first year and a half. There's 0% interest. But at the end of that year and a half, you can't make it. You just close the doors. Now, that's not what we preach, but understand that stuff happens. And when it does happen, should that ruin your whole life? Well, if you go into the unsecured markets and borrow this money and you can't pay it back, there's nothing they can do to you because you haven't secured it. They don't have a lien on your house, your car, your business, your wife, your firstborn child, whatever has a value to you that you would have put up as collateral. You're not going to lose that. The only thing you're going to lose is your credit. And if you know the right people, and I might be one of them, I can take anything off a credit report in 60 days or less. Now, that's not what we preach. Let's be really clear about that. That's not what we preach. But in this day and age of second chances and third chances and everything else out there, the banks have it built in, like our credit card program. The reason we charge the fees that I don't get, if I had all the money that we charge to our clients, I'd be doing this podcast from my house in Barbados, and I'm not, trust me. There's a palm tree out my door, but it isn't in Barbados. But the bottom line is that you can go and get this money. And there is a cost to it, but that cost, part of that cost is you're paying for the sins of those that preceded you. Because in the business credit card world, 7% of the business credit cards out there go into default. So think about that. So that's like a 1 out of every 12 cards goes into default. And that doesn't sound like much unless it's your money that was on that credit card and you want it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, dispelling the myth of I shouldn't use other people's money. That's very, and please forgive me for saying it this way, but it's very narrow-minded in my opinion. And in today's, you can't go out. We talked about franchising before. Some franchises to get going, they have to spend a couple $100,000. And then what happens if they don't sell a franchise?
Yeah. 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 I don't know many people that truly have gotten to a successful place in their business that haven't used financing or other people's money in some way. Like it's almost, for us, I know there's been many times we used equipment financing in the beginning. When we opened our second location, we took out a loan for that, and it's paid off for us. It's been a great, beautiful thing. And I think if you do have that fear that it won't pay off, you do it the way that you're talking about. That way you're not losing your house because of it, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, we've used it significantly in equipment. That's one thing that I've I definitely, because it's a major, it's something major, and then I also can justify it mentally in my head and sit here and say, yes, we might be paying $2,000 a month for that, just to throw out a number. But grief, we're making 12,000. So each individually, for me, I don't look at the overall number. I look at the cost to benefit analysis of what we're going to be able to, how, and we say this all the time on the podcast. What is that? What's the ROI on that? What is the ROI? Like the television, there's no ROI, or the $3,000 fountain we talk about. It might look great, but it does not drive money. So typically, we recommend, if you're going to use that, to use it for something that is going to drive money. And it's nice having something that's a tangible asset too, because then you could offload that if you ever did need to have that instance.
Yes.
So yeah, for sure. So I think we covered pretty much the first myth. We've dispelled that one. That was great. Fantastic input. Myth number two, though, and some things that we hear is I will never get approved for financing. I don't have the collateral, or I don't have any credit. And the banks are just saying no. What are your some thoughts about that? And how does Midas, I know you guys are different and you'll say it a lot better than I will, but how do you guys differ than kind of that traditional method?
Yeah. So first of all, the banks are trained, your local business development officer, business banker is trained to say no unless you can meet SBA guidelines. Okay. Because the bank doesn't want to expose themselves. So think about it. The SBA will guarantee 80 to 90% of a loan. And the bank is telling you have to put 10 to 20% down. So if you're putting 10 to 20%, let's just say they'll guarantee 90. So it's even numbers. If the SBA is going to guarantee 90% of this deal, and the bank says put 10% down, then what exposure does the bank have? Zero. They have none. So they'll do that deal all day. But if you're an entrepreneur and you have discovered the next best thing since sliced bread, but you don't own a house, you don't own your car outright, you have no collateral, but you need $50,000, they're going to tell you no. It's just what they're going to tell you because of the default rate. We talked a minute ago about the default rate of a business credit card is 7%. Default rates on business loans that have not been guaranteed by the SBA and or lines of credit, the default rate of those is like anywhere from 11 to 15%.
Wow.
So they're huge. They're huge. Think about the magnitude of that.
Yeah.
So that's the start. Is the banks won't. And would you repeat the question for me again? Because I get off on tangents. I forget. I'm old.
No, we were just kind of how,
The myth that, they'll never get approved, that there's nothing they can do. They have bad credit. There's nothing they can do.
Okay, so here's the question that I always ask people that are looking for money and might have credit challenges. If you were going to borrow money to you, how much would you charge you, or what of your collateral would you want? So think about that. And be honest, if you were going to borrow money to you, how much would you charge? So here's what I mean by that. The world evolves around credit, especially the business world. And if you don't have the credit, you can do the 3 F's, friends, family, and foes. If you don't have that, you're just plain out of luck, unless you fix yourself. Now, let me give you a couple of guidelines to what we look for in the unsecured world. Number one, we look, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about credit. Number one, we look at your credit score, but that's just a baseline. It's nothing more than to give us a starting point. Then we look at the credit that someone else is already extended to you. So ABC Bank gave you $25,000 limit on a credit card, they must have trusted you. So that makes my job of doing a check in order to trust you a little bit easier, right? And they tend to be more willing to loan you money if they're not the first one to dip their toe in Joanne's pool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing we look for is your credit utilization ratio, not to be mistaken with your DTI or debt to income ratio. They are two entirely different things. Your credit utilization ratio is made up of nothing more than the revolving credit that is being reported on your credit report, which is credit cards. Now it can be there's no Sears Roebuck anymore. It can be a JCPenney card. It can be a Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, whatever it is. If it's classified on your credit as revolving, that's 30% of your credit score. I have people that come to me daily that say, well, how can my score be 575? And as I've never missed a payment. I've never had anything repossessed or anything. Well, because Mr. Business Owner, you've financed your business using your personal credit cards, which is a big, and you've maxed 7 cards out. And each one of those cards in a maxed out position, you're making your payments and everything is good, but each one of those cards is nailing your credit score anywhere from 15 to 30 points. So you take that 575 score and give them back 200 points, and guess where they're at? They're at 775 and they're golden. They can have anything they want. So you have to make sure that you haven't bought a lot of big screen TVs. Okay, you just get your credit. And the lenders, what they look for is a credit utilization ratio of 50% or less. It used to be, now it's at 40 and it's going to 30, because the future lender doesn't want to be the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
So they're going to look very closely at that. Third, we'll look at inquiries. So how many times in the last year have you inquired about credit, and who have you inquired with? Now, if you just went to buy a car and they blasted your credit to 30 banks and you have 30 inquiries, we can get around that. But if you went out and applied to Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank, and 5 different credit unions for credit cards, then they're going to scratch their head. And I'm just being a banker saying, what the hell are these people trying to do? What are they doing?
Why are they so desperate?
Right. Yeah.
Desperate. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll look for the negative items on your report. So, and remember, time heals all wounds, even in credit. So if you have a late payment missed today, your score is going to go down 25 to, depending on what it is, 25 to 50 points. Now, 6 months from now, you're going to have gotten 10 of those points back, and 6 months after that, you're going to get 10 more back. By the end of 1 year, you've mitigated, we're the land of forgiveness and second chance. So after a year, we're going to forgive, we're not going to totally forgive you, but at least we're going to give you money, and you're just going to pay us 14% instead of 10. Okay. The only thing that really will shut down a file when somebody wants is a bankruptcy. That's either you got to pay the big bucks to get it removed, or you need to wait 5 years, and that's across the board. But what's even worse than that, doesn't matter how old it is, doesn't even matter if you've paid it, but if you have a collection, like I said, even if you paid that collection off and it's still there 6.5 years later, you're not getting any money. Okay. So there's ways. We've all been victim. My wife, who has an 847 credit score, was victim 2 years ago. And it was for $14.
Oh, wow.
And I got involved and figured out it was, I don't want to say a con, but it wasn't her fault. It was the issuer's fault. And I said, look, you either need to remove this and you need to remove it today, and don't tell me you can't do it, because I absolutely know you can. I know the law. But if you don't remove it, I'm telling you that we're walking right down to the Maricopa County Courthouse in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're filing suit. And that's going to cost you about 15 grand. So you decide what you want to do. But the bottom line is, when you have a charge off or a collection on your credit report, every future lender is they want nothing to do with you, because they don't want to be number two. So you need to either negotiate with the actual vendor to get them to take it off, no matter what they say that they can't or won't. They can do it. And if they won't do it, then you need to hire a legitimate credit repair company that will be able to remove it. On the flip side, you ask about you made a reference to how do you build your credit. It's very easy to build credit this day and age. That's a whole show in itself. But it is today, again, I keep saying America is a land of second and third chances. And if you know how to work the system, you can work the system. Okay. But take it upon yourself, or it might be a podcast we can do in the future. But take it upon yourself to learn how to build. You have things like, if you and your husband just traded credit cards and you're an authorized user on his and he's an authorized user. My wife and I are the same way. We have the exact same credit score. She has 3 credit cards that don't have my name on them, and I think I have 2 that don't have her name on them. So we inherit that's the quickest way to build your credit score, is to become an authorized user on somebody else's credit, typically a spouse or a family member. There's people that rent their credit. I give credit away. I give our credit away every day. I did it 3 times this week already, to clients of ours that needed an extra 20 points. And when I put them on as an authorized user on a $55,000 Visa card, they automatically jump 30 points. Now, that isn't necessarily good for business loans, because business lenders typically look past that. But if you're trying to buy a car or a house, boom, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
So that can be a big thing. There's starter accounts that can be big. There's, today, if you're renting a house and you're trying to get into buying a house, you can get your rent put on your credit, so it looks just like a mortgage payment. So now future mortgage lender says, oh, they've already been paying on this for the last 7 years, and they've never missed a payment according to the credit, because that's how they look. And they're more than welcome to give you the loan. They're more than welcome to give it to you at a preferred rate.
Is that recent legislation or something? I know that I recently learned that. What was that for? Is that just?
It's been around since credit cards have been around, so since 1981 or 82. Prior to that, about the only card there was out there was Carte Blanche or Diners Club. Then MasterCard and Visa started, and Discover and Amex, and here we are where we're at today. That limit of all time, but it is what it is. But that's been around. My daughter turned 17 on December 3rd, and the first thing that my wife and I did was put her name on all of our credit cards. Now, I keep them in a safe where she doesn't have access to them.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story I could tell you. She's 17 years old. She's already got a 767 credit score.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for those out there that are thinking like, I'll never get approved, I think we've debunked that you're capable of getting approved. But what advice do you recommend for them if they do have poor credit? Go work with someone like you. Like what should they do?
So the first thing you need to do, and people just need to suck it up here, is spend the $30 to get a credit report. And
Yeah.
and I like Experian only because they are FICO scores and they are the most accurate. But go pay the $34.95, and then in 2 weeks call Experian and say I'm gonna quit.
Mhm.
And they'll say why, and you'll say it's just too expensive, and they'll drop it down to $16.95 or whatever they can. But you need, this day and age, you're short-sighted if you don't track your credit. Think about this. This is the most important 3-digit number in your whole life.
Mhm.
Don't know what you have or don't have. And that's
Yeah.
70% of Americans, I think, right now. They have no clue. All for the sake of $16.95 a month. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and the other thing is you need to do, and especially people that are younger or not familiar with credit, is the fraud on credit reports. It can be massive.
Mm.
You really need to be making sure that your cousin Joe didn't happen to sneak a peek in your purse and
Yeah.
whatever, and all of a sudden you got 8 credit cards out and you have no clue what's going on,
Yeah.
but they aren't from you. And that happens more than you can imagine.
Yeah. It happened to someone in my family. That's
Okay,
crazy.
there you go.
Mhm.
And it typically is familial. It typically is a member. That's kind of scary, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you need to start with understanding your credit.
Yeah.
And it isn't that hard. I have, I'll give to you and you can give it out for free. I'm going to have to update it and I will get that done. But I have, that I wrote, it's about a 30 or 40 page white paper called Exposed: What the Credit Bureaus Don't Want You to Know.
Ah, I love it.
Okay. And I'm more than happy to give it. You can put your name on, I don't care. But it's the 10 different things that credit should be easy, but you should say, well, this should just be common sense.
Yeah.
But they make it to keep the credit bureaus are sell your information. They're nothing more than data furnitures. And the worse your credit is, the more a bank will pay for it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. But in fact, when you throw the money equation into it, it does make sense, because a bank is willing to pay. So your credit, every time a hard pull goes through, if you apply for a Visa card, Visa pays roughly $1.65 if your credit is below 620. If it's above 620, the fee is like 85 cents. And why is that? Because if it's above 640, if it's like mine, like 840, whatever it is today, then the banks aren't going to be able to give me a Visa card at 29.99 interest, because I'm going to refuse it. I'm either going to want 0 interest or something below 10% is reasonable. Whereas if they play on your desperation, I absolutely need this money to live, and so I'm good with the 29.99 because I'm going to pay it off next week anyway. Well, next week never comes, but that is what it is. But yeah, that white paper is I haven't even looked at it in a year, so I'll have to look at it and make sure it's up to date, but I'll send it to you. But you've got to understand your credit. You've got to understand it works. Just like collections. You can go out and you had bad luck, COVID happened, and you got behind on your bills and you lost your job and you lived off your Visa card, and then they canceled it and sent it to collections.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 years after COVID, or so they say, whatever. And you've regained and you've actually got a job that was double the income you had pre-COVID. And you go to the collection agency and you say, I want to pay this off in full.
Mhm.
And you would think that would make your problem go away. But actually, there's this thing called DOLA, date of last activity. Everybody should remember that, DOLA. And everything is supposed to come off your credit in 7 years. So remember what I said, it was 3 years ago. By theory, you should only have 4 years to go and it should come off your credit. But when you pay it off, when you be a good citizen and pay it off and do the morally correct thing, that actually hinders you because you restart the 7-year credit clock, or the DOLA.
Mm.
So now you've already got 3 years, and the federal law says they have to take it off in 7 years, but you paid it. So there's this thing within the law called DOLA, date of last activity, and that allows them to restart the 7-year clock. So now you're in it for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So the whole aura they create is they try to make this unnavigatable. Is that a word? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
They try and make it so you can't figure it out. But now you're screwed for another 7 years. So it's 10 years when federal law says 7 is it. And I talk to people on a regular basis that have been in credit prison for 15 years.
Wow.
You commit an armed robbery with a gun and be out of prison in less than a third of that time. But you're kept in credit prison for as long as they possibly can, so they can sell your information to the banks and everybody else at an inflated price.
Mm-hmm.
All right, have I beat that horse to death?
Yeah, no, it's good. So much good information. I always learn a lot when we talk. So I think that's a good one. Good advice there. So I think for those of you who are scared to even go look at your credit score, I encourage you to empower yourself and go take a look at it. There are ways to improve it, and it's so worthwhile, especially if you're getting into business and having a good credit score for sure.
Yep.
I
will get that white paper out to you, let's say by Monday. I just want to make sure I edit it, give it away, do whatever you need to do.
That will be a good resource. I will do that. All right, let's talk about the last myth here, which is myth number 3. And we kind of touched on this earlier, but it's about banks being the only legitimate source. Like some people I don't think understand what options they have, like that there is equipment financing, there is, unsecured credit cards, there's all these different routes that people can go. So talk to us a little bit about that. I think people just don't have that knowledge.
Okay. So
resources.
There are 17 recognized credit facilities or credit type lenders out there. I call them credit facilities. And I'll give you a list of some of them. So commercial real estate lending, fix and flip lending, private equity, venture capital, SBA, equipment leasing that you all have used, purchase order financing, factoring, hard money. One of the things that is taking the world by storm now is these dirty, greasy MCA loans that are the downfall of our society, but they're still out there. We don't sell them. They're too greasy and stinky for us, but a lot of people do. And then you have the unsecured loans, and you have unsecured business credit cards, unsecured personal credit cards. There are bad credit loans out there. There's 1,000 fintechs out there right now and we use many of them. We don't really deal so much in the bad term loan, bad credit loans. only because I just don't want I could make I could make a lot of money if I would do that, but at this stage of the game, I'm not real excited about my reputation getting sullied. And then there's just, investor money, family office money. So there's more money out there right now today than there has been in the past. And virtually anyone and everyone can get money if you know how to do it. And each one of the things that I just spoke of have their own list of qualifying credit criteria. If you have come up with the next best thing since sliced bread, call me. I've got some money I'll put into it. And there's a whole bunch of people out there like that, right? But I would, it's all in the preparation. And I'll give you an example. I can't name names for obvious reasons, but a major real estate company in the United States is in front of us for a mid 8-figure line of credit. And and you would think these people would have a lot of education, a CFO, a CEO. You'd have somebody in the organizations that knew what the heck they were talking about, and they don't. And their expectation, this is who we are, and this is our name, and they are a household name. This is our name, and you guys should bend over backwards to give us the money. It's not the way it works. And when I give them the list of things that we needed to prepare them for what the credit facility they wanted, they were incredulous. He was like, "Why should I do that? I live in an $8 million house. Whatever they do." And it's all about being prepared, understanding the credit facility that you're applying for, and then preparing. SBA loan, the list is a mile long, but it's what it is. SBA is still American business's best friend. They always will be. It's a little bit long and onerous process. The SBA right now is taking 8 or 9 months for a lot of loans. And that's just a long time. A lot changes in 8 or 9 months. But it's all about being prepared and you have the internet, for crying out loud. Go look, because everything you could need to know is there. Just remember one thing, that as you're looking for money in the business world, you're going to be swimming in a sea of sharks. And there are very few of us dolphins out there.
Yeah.
There just are. I look at, and don't go and find a reputable person or company. I look on Facebook every day. Every day there's 5 to 7 people that are promoting the product that I created 20 years ago. And every one of them is lying. Everyone, none of them are telling the truth. And, then, the powers that be here are like, well, why don't we go on there and tell the truth? And I'm like, we already have more business than we know what to do with. Why do we need to get into, lollygagging around whatever thing? But the bottom line is you have to be prepared. Understand what you want, and then educate yourself by using someone that has been in the business. I personally wouldn't deal with anybody in the business finance world that hasn't been in business at least 10 years. At least. Yeah. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Love it. Such good insight. I know it can be so scary. Like when I first started looking at different types of business financing, you're right. Like there are so many sharks out there. I was all of a sudden getting 5 million calls to people beating down my door, trying to tell me this is the type of loan. And they were crazy, insane loans that were just would have killed me.
I
But
mean, the whole thing,
yeah.
right? That's what the internet's set up for. I mean, just even apply for car insurance or something. Put a request for car insurance and see how many people beat you up like
Yeah.
crazy, and you just it's yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah,
I will give you
definitely.
I will give you an example, and here I can show you. We just bought a vacation home, and and we had to finance a couple $100,000 of it. So all of a sudden, I just did this morning. This is what my morning was made up of. I have to spread this out and show you. These are how many people, and there's 6 on here, that had reached out to us. I'm like, what the heck, did they already sell our mortgage? I just took it out on November 30th. And I got these all in a week.
Wow.
And so I said, well, I better call them, because they're all, even me in the industry and should know better. There was some of them that were pretty slick. And I called every one of them, and every one of them is nothing more. No, the mortgage company still owns my note. These are all from people trying to sell me private mortgage insurance. And I'm like, how did they get my name? Where did they get mine? I don't even know.
They all bought
Yeah.
the same lead list.
Yeah.
But that's, like you said, that's what the internet is all about. That's what it's for. And who knows? Just education. I preach it all day long. What
Well,
else?
Daryl, I think we debunked a lot of myths today.
Yeah, for sure.
Super helpful for those of you out there that don't have the funding to open your business and you're trying to figure that out. Consider financing. It's such a great way to move forward quickly and start opening your business, because waiting around, like Daryl said, can only cost you money sometimes. So we trust Midas Financial and highly recommend reaching out to them. I will put a form in the show notes for this podcast. I highly recommend just fill out that form, reach out to them, talk to them about what's possible for you, and kind of where you're at, and get a good basis there. So as you can see, Daryl is so knowledgeable in this area. So if you have questions, I know he'd be happy to chat with you. So thank you, Daryl. We appreciate your time today.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, bud.
Have a good day.
Are you looking for a way to help your brick and mortar business drive more traffic and increase your sales? Look no further than the Receipt Paper Podcast. In this podcast, Joanne and Kyle provide their sage advice on how to make your brick and mortar store the hottest spot in town. Whether you're just launching a new business or trying to grow an existing one, these informative episodes will leave you inspired. In each episode, Joanne and Kyle take on a different topic related to running a successful business. They offer practical tips based on their own experience as owners of multiple brick and mortar locations. So whatever challenges you're facing, they have actionable advice for you. From finding a location and executing your build out, to merchandising and customer experience, to sales and marketing, Joanne and Kyle have you covered. With helpful advice from these experienced entrepreneurs, you are sure to learn how to increase your sales and have your business running out of receipt paper in no time. Let's dive right in.